So how and why does the Build Your Own MBA course work so well for so many different people in so many different organisations? Well, the first thing to know is that the materials taught on this course are the result of research carried out over several decades by the world's leading business schools, whereby they studied thousands of very different organisations in order to develop a set of frameworks and methodologies that first of all draw out those issues that are of fundamental importance to any organisation. So a few examples of such issues might be, well, why are customers buying from this organisation and not from one of its competitors? And therefore, what must be the most critical factors for success within the organisation's market? But how is that market changing? And what are the organisation's core internal capabilities? And how will it have to adapt those capabilities to deal with the changes taking place within its market? And so on. These frameworks and methodologies, which are now taught on MBA courses, are commonly used by management consultants to quickly analyse a client so they can then develop strategies that are the best fit for that client's organisation. However, rather than being used by external management consultants, imagine how much more powerful it would be if these same frameworks and methodologies could be taught to staff members at every level within an organisation in a form and manner that's made relevant for their individual roles. It would allow the organisation to draw on everyone's knowledge and insights in a structured way and enable people to develop the best strategies possible for their team or department, whilst ensuring that everything within the organisation is moving in the same direction. So we set about putting this course together to explain the MBA concepts to everyone within an organisation en masse as a starting point in making this possible. The first thing we needed to do was to discover the best way in which we could quickly explain the MBA concept to large audiences. So we began by delivering face-to-face lectures within organisations. And in fact, this live version of the course has become so popular that we have now delivered it in 25 major cities across 5 different continents to hundreds of very different organisations, and to some of those several times. These organisations include large multinationals at one end of the scale and small startups and university spin-outs at the other. We also identified that if used in the appropriate way, these same frameworks and methodologies would not only be powerful within businesses, but also public sector organisations. So for example, the UK's National Health Service. And to date, we have delivered the course to over 30 foundation trusts within the NHS, helping them to move strategy making down from top level into the heart of the organisation. And finally, we saw the importance of the concepts being used by professional advisors to boost their commercial awareness and help them to gain a deeper understanding of their clients. In fact, the significance of this last point was something that I had recognised when I had previously worked as a lawyer for Vodafone in the UK, and then later on as a private practice lawyer in Silicon Valley, California. It was always the case that the more I knew about my clients, the easier it became to give them advice that had a real impact on their business. And now the course is regularly run by some of the largest law firms in the world, and it's used by investment banks to give their junior analysts a quick way of studying any potential investment target. Based upon all of this success, we then gradually refined the content in order to create this immersive online experience which is fully applicable to a 21st century organisation, so that even where people are scattered across different offices in different time zones, they can still all access the same up-to-date MBA content in a cost-effective way. And this means that when they arrange a meeting, perhaps to create their own plan of action, or maybe to analyse a client before a pitch or tender, they can be confident that everyone is using the same logical, step-by-step approach to understanding the relevant organisation and developing solutions for it. In addition, the online course helps people to create their own personal development plan which is aligned to their organisation strategy. And all of this explains how and why the Build Your Own MBA course works so well for so many different people in so many different organisations. because not only does it teach people the key business principles, but it does it in a way that's relevant for them and their organisation. When you and your colleagues access the MBA resources, you will note there are 3 different perspectives you can take. You can either look at the materials from the viewpoint of a business, the viewpoint of a public sector organisation, or the viewpoint of a professional advisor, such as lawyers, accountants, investors, and so on. So please now click on the MBA Resources tab at the top of the page and choose whichever perspective is most relevant for you, and then follow the instructions provided, which will help you to get the most out of the course.